Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level language arts video, and today we're going to be talking about persuasive techniques. So this lesson looks at things that are mandatory for students. And if something is mandatory, it means that you have to do it. You have no choice. However, if something isn't mandatory, it means that you don't have to do it and you have a choice. For example, at most schools, doing homework is mandatory. Students have no choice about it. If they don't do it, they will get in trouble. However, at most schools, studying during lunch break is not mandatory. Students have a choice about it. If they want to, they can, but if they don't, they will not be in trouble. So, what are some other things that are mandatory for students in school? And what are some things that are not mandatory? All right, so in this lesson, we'll look at some persuasive texts about sports. So first, discuss the questions below. Do you enjoy playing sports? If so, why? And what sports do you play? And if not, why not? So some people think that sports should be mandatory for all students. And what reasons can support this opinion? So sports should be mandatory for all students because physical activity helps students stay fit and healthy. And it looks like there is a mistake on that screen. There are not two Y's at the end of mandatory, so I'll have to report that. Um, and then try to think of some other reasons why sports might be, or a person might believe that sports should be mandatory for students. However, some people think that sports should not be mandatory. So, what reasons can support this opinion? So, here's one example. Sports should not be mandatory for all students because some students don't enjoy sports. And then see if you can think of some other reasons as well. So, Zendaya feels that sports should be mandatory for all students. You're going to read and then decide if the statements here are true or false. You can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. There is nothing as great as the feeling of pure joy that comes from pushing every single muscle in your body until you explode to achieve a goal. And that is what playing sports is all about, being better, stronger, and happier. For this reason and more, I truly believe that sports should be mandatory for all students. As teenage students, we are growing academically and we are growing physically. This means that it is vital for us to be fit and healthy. Playing sports is one of the best ways for us to achieve this. However, only 38% of U.S. students aged 12 to 17 play organized sports on a regular basis, and this number is falling. We are risking our health at this important time. How can we grow up to be healthy adults if we do not keep fit now? So then we'll answer these questions. True or false? Zendaya thinks that sports are all about winning. Well, that's false. She mentions health and fitness. Zendaya believes that sports can help students keep fit. That's true. And Zendaya thinks that too few teenagers play sports. That is also true. Now, Raul disagrees with Zendaya, so we're going to read his opinion and then answer the questions true or false. And once again, you can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. I think that playing sports should not be mandatory for all students. Of course, there are many reasons why playing sports can be good for some people. However, there are also reasons why other people do not enjoy playing sports. In my opinion, we should be able to choose to play sports at school or not. I will now give reasons why I think so. Firstly, some sports can be dangerous. When I was 13 years old, I was playing basketball with my friends at school. During the game, I fell over as I was running and I injured my leg. If sports were mandatory, I might get another injury. Therefore, I think that sports should not be mandatory. So Raul thinks that sports are good for some people but not for others. That is true. Raoul believes that students should not play sports at school. That's false. And Raoul has never played sports. That is also false. All right, so we're going to look again at these two texts about mandatory sports. First, we have a vocabulary word. Persuasive is able to make people agree with the speaker or writer. And so, what differences do you notice between the two texts and their writing styles? Well, one thing is that Zendaya's text uses some statistics, some actual fact based statistics, and Raoul's text talks more about personal experience. So that's one major difference. And so, which text do you think is more persuasive? Which person convinced you more to agree with their point of view? Okay, so Zendaya used a number of persuasive techniques in her writing, and one of these is hyperbole. Hyperbole or exaggeration is saying something in a much more extreme way than is really true to express a strong meaning to the reader. Pushing every single muscle in your body until you explode to achieve a goal. Does Zendaya mean that people playing sports really explode? And that's no. And what is the effect of hyperbole here? It really just kind of helps the reader to understand the feeling that Zendaya gets from sports and maybe create in them the desire to have that experience as well. We're going to look at another example of hyperbole and what does it mean. This homework is going to take me 100 years to finish. Well, it won't literally take 100 years. It just means that it's complicated and it will take him a long time to finish. Emotive language is language that creates a strong emotional feeling in the reader in addition to its basic meaning. So here are some examples from Zendaya's text. There is nothing as great as the feeling of pure joy that comes from pushing every single muscle in your body until you explode to achieve a goal. So, how does pure joy differ from happiness? So, pure joy is more emotive. It creates a feeling that happiness is kind of just a generic term. You can feel happy, but if you feel pure joy, it's a more intense feeling. And can you think of other words that have some strong emotional meaning, feeling? So things like, I don't like it versus I hate it or I loathe it or I like that person as opposed to I adore this person. So those are some other examples of emotive language. So we're going to match the plain language with the hyperbole and emotive language, and then rewrite the plain sentence with these words. So big. So if something is big, the hyperbole would be the size of my head. Quickly go is to race. Good is fantastic. And to be hungry is starving. So I was hungry, so I quickly went home and I made a big sandwich. It was good. So that's the very just plain language. And then if we rewrite that using the hyperbole and emotive language, we would have I was starving. So I raced home. And I made a sandwich the size of my head. It was fantastic. And so you can kind of see the difference um, between those two. I mean, they basically have the same meaning, but this one is a lot more emotional. It, draws the reader in, helps them picture more clearly what the writer is saying. So repetition and list of three. Zendaya also used repetition and list of three in her writing. Repetition is repeating words or phrases to effect. So as teenage students, we are growing academically and we are growing physically. List of three is using three of the same type of words or phrases together. And that is what playing sports is all about, being better, stronger, and happier. So what do you think is the effect of repetition and list of three? Does it make Zendaya's writing more persuasive? And why do you think that she chose to use these in her writing? So just think about those questions. And then personal pronouns. So Zendaya and Raul use different personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are like I, you, we, etc. in writing have different effects. And so compare how Zendaya uses we and Raul uses I and me. So as teenage students, we are growing academically and we are growing physically. I fell over as I was running and I injured my leg. If sports were mandatory, I might get another injury. So Zendaya uses we and Raul uses I. And what effect do these different pronouns have on the reader? Well, here, Zendaya seems like she's trying to include everyone, to draw people into her point of view. For Raoul, the repeated use of I makes it probably a little more difficult for the reader to put themselves into the situation. And then rhetorical questions. So Zendaya also asked rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are different from the usual questions that we ask each other. And look at the example and discuss the questions. How can we grow up to be healthy adults if we do not keep fit now? So, does Zendaya really expect the reader to answer? Well, no, probably not. The question is really just to make the reader think about what the writer is trying to say. And that's the reason that she asks the question to stimulate thought in the reader. So now we can look again at Raoul's text and how can you change it to make it more persuasive? So for example, if sports were mandatory, I might get another injury. And you change it to if sports were mandatory, we might get injuries. So kind of, again, drawing the readers in and making it not quite so personal. And then think about how you could use the techniques covered in this lesson: hyperbole, emotive language, repetition, list of three, personal pronouns, and rhetorical questions. So give that a try. See if you can rewrite Raoul's text using some of these techniques. All right, so now think back to the original topic. Should sports be mandatory for all students? If so, what are the benefits of this? And if not, why not? And then you're going to write your own persuasive text about mandatory sports for students. You can make some notes on your ideas, give what your opinion is, three reasons for that opinion, maybe an example of each of these: hyperbole, emotive language, repetition, list of three, personal pronouns, and rhetorical questions. And now you can write your text. You can use the language from the table to help you and make sure that your writing meets the criteria. Does it use language from the table to give your opinion? Does it use language from the table to give your reasons? Do you give three reasons to support your opinion? And do you use at least three persuasive techniques? All right, and again, if you would like some feedback on your writing, you can send me an email at the following address. and I'll give you some feedback on what you've written. So again, just think about what we've covered in this lesson. Remember the techniques that we can use in persuasive writing, and what are the effects of these techniques. And that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions, leave those for me in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.